Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Room. I've been using the Galaxy S8 for the past couple of months, and honestly, it still holds up surprisingly well for a phone that was released back in the year of 2017. It's got a curved screen while still being comfortable to use one-handed, and it doesn't feel nearly as outdated as you'd expect in 2025. In this video, I'm going to go over what it's like using the S8 today, what works, what doesn't, and whether it's worth using one if you've got one lying around. The Galaxy S8 was released on April 21st of 2017, making it just over 8 years old, and it still feels relatively modern even in 2025 with a curved glass display, something Samsung called the Infinity display at the time, and the chassis is slim, lightweight, and easy to use one-handed, which is a rarity nowadays when compared to the Galaxy S23, which comparatively is wider, boxier, thicker, and sharper, making it difficult for me to wrap my hands around as the edges dig into my hands. The always-on display is also great for being able to glance at the time and notifications while the phone is resting, and the OLED panel allows for nice colors and the ability for individual pixels to be turned off, which is something that a traditional LCD panel lacks. Overall, I really like the Galaxy S8's design and its ergonomic factor for one-handed use, something that I will miss when heading back to my iPhone 15 Pro, even though I am able to use the iPhone mostly one-handed just like the Galaxy S8. In terms of the software experience, I've had no issues with any Google services, and web browsing can be ever so slow at times, but nothing to the point of being unusable and wanting to throw the phone across the room, like with the Galaxy Note Edge I reviewed last year. Application-wise, all the main social media apps, including YouTube, work perfectly, and even newer apps like ChatGPT, Panels, Google Messages, or even Tailskill work just fine. So personally, I've got no issues with app compatibility beyond them being ever so slow at times. Even RCS messaging through Google Messages works, so there are no problems there. As for games, when this phone came out, the Snapdragon 835 was quite powerful, but not so much for today. Most games will play just fine on the Galaxy S8, just don't expect to play games such as PUBG and Call of Duty Mobile on max settings, and it's probably best to avoid Unreal Engine 5 games altogether due to the RAM being capped at only 4GB combined with the aging Snapdragon chipset. Connectivity is great, with USB Type-C 3.0 and a 3.5mm headphone jack, along with 5GHz Wi-Fi, LTE Advanced, and Bluetooth 5.0 Low Energy, which is realistically all that is needed for a smartphone. During the months that I used the S8, the wireless nor the port selection held me back in any way beyond a fancy icon saying 5G for my cellular connection. The SIM card slot supports a nano SIM along with a micro SD card, something that is absent from newer phones. As usual with older devices, the camera tends to be one of the weakest points, especially on Samsung phones. The rear camera is a 12-megapixel sensor that allows for 4K video recording at 30 FPS, but if you want to use HDR and optical image stabilization, you will need to drop the resolution down to 1080p at 30 FPS. Photos aren't terrible if you have a bright light source, but the sensor struggles with drastic differences in exposure, and especially scenarios where there is not enough light present, creating grainy images. Video is a similar story, but it is noticeably more impacted by low light, and the sensor's age shows, especially when compared to my iPhone 15 Pro, which destroys the Galaxy S8 in video quality when shooting in 4K ProRes. The front camera fares even worse at only 8 megapixels and 1440p 30 FPS video recording. I also noticed that the front camera doesn't have a lot of detail present even in good lighting, and the camera tends to smooth the image out, making for photos and videos that aren't the best, but aren't the worst either, especially compared to something like 2010's iPhone 4 or Samsung's Galaxy S3. So, final thoughts. Even though the Galaxy S8 is just over 8 years old, it still has a lot of potential in 2025. being able to do everything you would expect an average phone to do, just slower. Calls and RCS messaging are solid, app support is mostly perfect, and the overall experience remains quite usable, something I can't say for the Galaxy Note Edge I reviewed back in 2024. The only real annoyance is the camera, which is a severe weak point when compared to newer Samsungs and especially newer iPhones, so I can't recommend it for high-end phone photography or content creation, but chances are you'd be using a recent iPhone or Samsung for that like me if you're shooting videos. Honestly, if you've got an S8 lying around, you might enjoy picking it up again and using it due to its good design and fast enough hardware, proving that you don't need the latest phone to have an enjoyable mobile experience. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more nostalgic tech content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.